How would you like to achieve your first million? And today you're here for a treat because we have Jim, which is the CEO and founder of the Australian largest franchise group, the Jim's Group, with over 5,000 plus franchises among 50 different brands. So, Jim, tell us, what are the 5 steps to achieve 1 million in profit?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Okay. All right. First thing is, yes, you did say $1 million in turnover, and I think that's particularly good because the margin can be very low. You might not make much money at all. $1 million profit. Okay. Focus on customers. Be obsessional about customers. You need to know what your customers want, how they are, and how you can serve them well. You need to be very focused on change. The biggest single difference I notice between people who succeed and those that don't is that people who fail, when something goes wrong, they'll say, okay, who's at fault? Is it my customers? Is it the system? Is it the advertisers? Is it the economy? In our case, is it the franchisor? They'll blame everybody and their dog. Good operators will say, okay, maybe other people didn't do what I wanted, but what can I do different? You've got to be endlessly self-critical. Next, you need to focus on costs. Okay, people get into business. Sometimes they have this idea, if I have an expensive car, a flashy office, and I have, all the expensive clothes and all the rest of it, I'll impress people, and that will really give me. And that's just an excuse for spending money. My whole approach to business is extreme frugality. On anything doesn't matter. Spend on what really matters. Support customer service, support, in our case, to franchisees, but everything else cut back. I still, and I'm a little bit more than got that past this stage now, $1 million profit, but I still, in the supermarket, I'll look to the bottom shelf and I'll buy the cheap stuff. My wife drives me mad. She says, not as good. And I said, it's the same cost. And I wear my clothes or my socks until they got holes in them. So I'm always control your costs. Very important to be resilient. You've got to be able to cope with things that go wrong, because one thing about business is absolutely true. No matter how great it is, you are always going to go through really bad times. So it's very important to be resilient. And there's things behind that. There's a good science behind it. I'm very keen on the science of happiness and health and so forth. But things like regular exercise, having enough sleep, you never can let your business get in the way of important. Really important is you are not a whole person, you're an effective person if you don't have a good relationship, which means your family. And I don't believe business should ever get in the way of being a proper parent, partner, whatever, and friendship too. So be resilient by looking after yourself and your psychological. It doesn't mean being lazy and being slack. It means taking the time out to do the things that are really going to make your life on a proper thing. And the last thing I would say is ethics. Now, that may not be universal. I know some people do succeed by doing things that are unethical, by taking shortcuts. All I can say is my experience very powerfully is that all my best decisions were made against what I thought was my interest at the time. Again and again, I've seen this pattern. And the reason for that is if you do the right thing, it may cost you in the short term, but somehow in the long term, it does seem to work out better. Reputation is very big in business. People don't realize you sharp people for a while and you get into trouble. But even if not, it's not worth being in business. You have to do the wrong thing. So there's my 5.
Yeah. Well, I love the 5th one. You see, doing the right thing, even Jim, when nobody even knows that you're doing the right thing, because your 5 step is very connected with the 4th, meaning that, and I'm glad you put that in your steps. Not too many people get that view, right? But there is something really important, which is the combination of your step number 5 and 4, because it goes aligned with the mindset with the entrepreneur. And unfortunately, what's going on out there, people building the business, right? They are stuck in the business. They have this mindset, I know how to do everything. and everything, how to do everything how I say, because I'm creating this business. Everybody what have to do what I say. And then what happened? They are working in the business Monday to Sunday. They are stuck. They're not moving forward, not making any money. And now they don't have time to spend with the family, with the friends, people they love. And then all this negative emotion of wearing all the hats in the business can become a physical emotion. And then you can end up with cancer, with heart attack, overweight. Yeah, I'm a sign of it. Yeah, my business, you see, I'm still recovering for that, because it creates a lot of anxiety, and then your body take a hit, and without realizing, your business is going in the way of your life, and can end up the relationship with your family, can end up relationship with your friend, but also can kill you. Literally can kill you, because you are in the process. You see, I remember when I built my first property business, we managed to save over 5 million. And I had this brilliant idea that to optimize time, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna eat in the whole day. I'm gonna work. And then at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, when I'm so hungry that I cannot even function, I'm gonna call a fast food restaurant. There was two restaurants down my street in London. One was Chinese and the other one was Indian. And I remember I just called and said, I'm Harry. They knew already that they need to order the next number in the menu. And that's how it was. And like I said, I've been overweight. Yeah. I'm working on the case now, right? I managed to lose over 12 kilos, right? But that being on it, my body took a hit. So why, Jim, in your 5 steps, you mentioned this step? There was a point on your life that you felt that the business was running you, controlling you, and you said this situation has to stop. This is not working. The other day I interviewed one entrepreneur here. The guy have 3 businesses, turning over a million in all of them, and the guy was vomiting blood. And he told me, Harry, I'm running this business. Business not running me. And he went off to Thailand and spent a year out there, and he's fine now. His business are okay now. But why, Jim, you mentioned this in your step, and why do you think we need to pay attention to this?
Well, first of all, very importantly, I don't think it's worth making money if it destroys your life. There's the saying that goes, no other success can compensate for failure in the home. So let's say you become a billionaire, okay? But your kids turn out badly, or you're estranged from them, and your marriage is destroyed, and you're in short-term relationships, and your whole what's the point of it? What have you actually achieved? I mean, unless you're some humanitarian and you can say, yes, I've saved millions of lives, like a Bill Gates or something like that. Well, what's the point? Yes, I've got a bigger yacht than anybody else. I've got a fancier car. I've got a $500,000 car. I have holidays that everybody envies. But am I happy? In my view, not. I actually know some very brother of a very close friend of mine, immensely wealthy man, much wealthier than me, committed suicide. Basically,
Wow.
family. Those stuffed up family. What good was all his money? So I don't think it's worth it, honestly, to have it. I've got to say, I've made many mistakes in business. Really, so many. I could talk to you for an hour and a half, but all the things.
Me too. Let's don't go there, because we will depress each other.
Doing things that I shouldn't do, rushing off into wild goose chases, going into business I don't understand, choosing the wrong people. I could go on, but I don't believe I've ever made the mistake of putting too much focus on the business that I neglected other parts of life. I have 10 kids, and I love my family.
Wow.
And I've always had
lot
time
of kids.
for it. Yes. I've got to say, I'm a very difficult man. I've been divorced 3 times, not at my own decision, but I have a wonderful wife, married 23 years, and we have our times, but we're doing very well. I just think that's what's the most important thing. See, but even apart from that too, I think people can sometimes get the idea that it's all about quantity of work. If you work enough hours. Now, you've got to work hard and consistently. Obviously, there's no success in business without that. I mean, unless you think you can make it by gambling or something. But what I find is this: 10 minutes of thinking clearly about a problem can do a lot more than 10 hours of slog. So you've got to look at a thing. You've had your run, you've had a walk, you've had a bit of gone outside, and you think, why are we doing it that way? What about trying this? And suddenly, like that, you've suddenly got a breakthrough. You realize that was a mistake, wrong path, wrong person, whatever it is, and now I'm going to change. And clear thinking is very important. You look after your mental health, you look after your family, you look after your church or wherever body you're involved in, and somehow things will work out for business. I mean, as a Christian, I also believe if you do the right thing, then it will somehow work out okay. Not necessarily financially, but somehow work out better.
But then, Jim, because from this broadcast, we want all the entrepreneurs to be wealthy, but also we want them to be healthy and we want them to be happy. And let's face it, you see, only 2% of the population go through with what we have been go through. Yeah. The level of responsibility and stress and problems that the entrepreneur have to deal is completely different. What the rest of the people have, right? Sometimes it's different for even people in our own environment to understand what we're going through. Yeah. uh, because when we are responsible, we're not responsible only for one job. To do it properly, we are responsible for the people that do the job. We're responsible for the family because some of them only have this job to support the family, and your company had to provide that profit so you can pay those salaries so this entire family can eat. And on top of that, the market change, COVID come, you have a disruption in the market. So all this pressure generate negative emotions. And again, if these negative emotions are not dealt with, it can becomes a physical emotion, a physical pain. This emotional pain converted into physical pain. People can have heart attack. People can get depressed. People can commit suicide. For me, for example, Jim, going for a walk is very good. My girlfriend, she likes to swim. Yeah. For me, going for a walk in the morning, I walk a lot, and it helped me a lot to clear my mind, to what we call it, release these negative emotions. So you're back again empowered to deal with the business challenges. So what ways do you have or when do you find out? Because all these negative emotions, we had them when we start our first business. When you have your first client, when you have the business, nobody knows you. You're trying to find your first client. They want to pay you cheap. You doesn't have any money. You find your supplier, you want to charge a lot of money. Then you cannot handle the operation. You need to wear all the hats. And again, it's so unfair things, and you work, work, work. We all have been through this. So at which point in your life you find out that, hey, I have to take care of my mental health. I have to be aware that if I don't have energy and if I'm not healthy, I won't be able to operate full capacity to build what I'm building. So when do you realize that this was important, and how you start to deal with this, that I didn't even know that I have to work on myself. I didn't even know that I had to become, let's say, my own psychologist, because a lot of people depend on me. So how you discovered this?
I can't say I came to the conclusion because I've always believed that. When I was 14 years old,
Wow.
we did a study in my school. We measured pulse rates, and I found that my pulse rate was one of the fastest of any of the kids in that class at the age of 14. So I decided this wasn't a good idea. So I started jogging. Now this is we're talking about in the 1960s when it was unknown. Somebody running through the street said, "What are you, a nutcase?" So I started jogging, running, playing squash, started looking after my health. And then when I got older, I always took care of my diet. I have an aim to be a 22 BMI, which is for me 66 kilos given my height. So I aim
Wow. Wow.
always to maintain a proper weight. I've never been overweight. I've never
Wow.
failed to have exercise. So
Even
never,
when the pressure in the business was there, when you don't have time, when you want to wear the hats, how you find time for yourself?
you find time for the things that are most important, Harry. That's all I can say. And I've never felt that money was the most important thing. It just can't be. Money is it's useful. You've got to keep an eye on it, but you can't ever put money at the center. You can't say, it's in a sense, when you talk about making your first million, it can't be your first goal. Your first goal, emotionally speaking, should be, how can I make my customers amazingly happy? And as a franchisor, my first goal is always, how can I make my franchisees happy? Let me give you two examples, okay? I get a notice from I get a message from my CFO that I unexpectedly owe $2 million in tax. All right, this kind of thing happens, and all right, and I'm running a bit close to the water, so $2 million in tax. And then I get a phone call from one of my franchisees, one of my 5,500 franchisees, who says, Jim, it's really gone badly for me. I look like I'm going to have to give it away. Now, what do you think upsets me the most? The $2 million tax bill or the guy who's failing? I tell you, by a country mile, it's the guy who's failing. I look at it and I say, what
Absolutely.
could I have done different? How can we improve? Why did this happen? Did we select wrong? Did we train wrong? Did we support wrong? What's the reason for it? Emotionally speaking, I'm far more driven by that kind of thing than I'm by the bottom line. And it's quite astonishing. If you focus very much on service and doing the right thing, then other things come into place. I think the mistake people often make is they put the money first. They say, I've got to work more hours. No, what's the right thing to do? It's never right to neglect your family. It's never right to neglect your children. It doesn't matter. Now, maybe I'll make more money. Maybe I'll like this. As I said to you before, I find that doing the right thing, even exercising, does actually work out better, but it's still the right thing to do. You're really
Absolutely.
responsible.
Look after your health is the right thing to do. Yeah.
Look after your family. Look after what's important to you. What are your basic goals in life? If it's all just about making more money so I can have a more impressive business than somebody else, well, that's nothing, you know. You look at these charts of who's richest by who, and I don't care. I have things that are
Neither
important
do
to me.
I.
I'm writing a book right now about the birth rate crisis, about why fertility is going down. You know, honestly, tell you, as much of my attention is going into that as in my business. Why? Because it's important. Something like 90% of my disposable income goes to scientific research, a project we're running, and
Wow.
through a university, and into problems of mental health and so forth. These are important to me. It's not, money is never the first thing. It's what you can
Mm.
do with it, what you can live with it. And I have a fantastic life. I don't get stressed on the whole. I have bad times, like when I hear something like a bad franchisee going, and sometimes when money's a little bit tight and you can't do the things you want to do, but all the time, I'm a very happy man. I don't think there's a happier man on the face of the earth. I've got a wonderful business that I enjoy, a sense of meaning. I've got an amazing wife that I absolutely adore. She's just the best you could have. I believe how blessed I am to have Lee as my wife. I've got a great church. I've got connections within the church. I've got relations with my kids. We just arranged to have dinner with them on Friday and stuff. I've got a great life.
So,
But
Jim,
you've
so
got to follow this. Money can't be number one, Harry. Money can't be number one. I'm
absolutely,
only talking to me
100%.
because I'm rich. But the fact of the matter is, it's never the most important thing. It's a nice product.
100%. 100%. And time I hear stories, living, like you said, with your friend that's a lot of wealthy and commit suicide. And this I think that when the priorities are not in order, and we realize exactly, at some point in my life I was thinking, what the whole point of doing all this, right? What I really want to do, what kind of impact I'm going to create. One of the reasons that we do this podcast, absolutely, is just uh, to put some voice out there for the entrepreneurs, for people that they are building businesses that are having hard time. So
Mhm.
to give a sense of hope that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But also, we want all the entrepreneurs from this podcast. We believe that all entrepreneurs should be happy, wealthy, and healthy. And these three things are the core values that we are broadcasting in this podcast. And And I think that, yeah, everybody, I ask about the first million because unfortunately, this is what drives more attention and everybody wants to know that and
I
is
know
poking into them.
they're not going to listen to you, Harry, because you
But
tell
they're
them how to
missing the
become
point.
poor.
But it's
But
very
I'd
good
still
for.
say, can I just say something? If
Yes,
you've got
yes.
a choice, happy, healthy, and wealthy, if you're going to drop one of them, drop the wealthy. If you can be happy, healthy,
You
a
don't need
meaningful,
exactly. How much do we
purposeful
really
life,
need?
yeah, how much do you need? How much difference does it make, honestly speaking? I
Yeah.
mean, really, you know what they've found from research on happiness? And I know you're talking about money, but I'm talking about happiness. How do you spend money? Okay, people think the more stuff you have, the happier you are. Well, it's rubbish. If it's all about competition, who's got the biggest car? There's always somebody with a bigger boat. Okay,
It's
I've got
something to
gold-plated
prove. Yeah.
taps in my yacht. Well, he's got solid gold taps in his yacht, and he's got a
Yeah.
solid gold. I'm never going to compete with Jeff Bezos or someone like that. That comparison. Far better if you've got money to spend is to spend it on experiences. That's time with family, with friends, with people, doing things. But you know the number one best thing you can do with money? This isn't ideology, this is science. The best thing you can do with money if you want to create happiness is to give it away to a cause that you're involved with. I don't mean anonymous check. I mean giving money to something where you're actively involved in doing something worthwhile. And I don't believe it's worth running a business that you can't see any moral point. So I'm going to say something people might get upset about. And I'm saying never invest, never buy crypto. You know why? Okay, first of all, it's a gamble. It can go down as much as up. But the second thing is there is no value in it. You're not helping anybody. If you have a business that you provide employment, you provide good service to the public, that's worth doing. Do something worthwhile with your life. Don't just speculate on buying something because somebody will pay more. That is a garbage business and a garbage life, in my view.
And then, Jim, the other thing is that what you know when you when I realized, from long time ago, right? That I make a shift in my mindset because when you are coming from the space that you don't have nothing to prove to anybody anymore, I think that the sense of peace that you have in your life will allow you to focus in what is really important. And I think that what happened in the enterprise is exactly what you said. Everybody wants to prove who has the bigger boat, who has the bigger car, who can make these millions. You see, I always say it's more, you know what is more important than a millionaire bank account? A millionaire lifestyle, you see? Uh, I don't, honestly, I haven't put an alarm clock in 17 years. Nobody can take that away from me. No one, you see? So, and I only spend time with people that I like, and like you, and I only do business with people that I like and I appreciate. So I create my own surrounding. I create my own way of how I'm gonna wake up and the sleep time, exactly as you were describing before. So all these kind of things, if you put it in scale, Jim, they are priceless. How about time? Yeah, because exactly what you said, how much we need. However, building a business, Jim, and especially what you have done, because I think that one thing is to build the business, the other thing is to replicate it and make it available for others to create wealth. um, how you started your first business and why made you think that doing a franchise of that business was a good idea, um, from where you got the source of inspiration. And then I saw different brands there, so I think that you have created different brands and then you have franchises all these different brands. So how this process work, and since when how you decided that this is what you're gonna do, or what happened first, and what get you inspired to continue.
Well, my start, first of all, I didn't intend to be in business at all. I intended to be an academic. I did a PhD back in the 70s, early 80s, looking at ways to understand things like the rise and fall of civilizations. Came up with some very unorthodox thinking, which basically killed my academic career. I had no prospect of a job, which is what I expected to do. But I had implications which are all to do with biology, even though it was a history PhD. So what I needed to do was to make a lot of money so I could fund a research institute. That's my first step. Now,
Wow.
in this time, I had no money at all. I was deeply in debt, okay? What I had was a part-time lawn mowing business, which I did help fund my studies. And it was a good business because it kept me outside at the weekends and it's healthy and it pays quite well, actually, compared with, like being a barman or something like that. And I enjoy it, okay? So there I am. I got no money. I'm deeply in debt. So I start mowing lawns for a living. And I focused on how to be the best lawn mowing gardening contractor I could. The best equipment, the best systems. I always looked to have the best service to client, the best way to cut edges, the best way to do the job fast, the best way to travel, the extras that I could do, learning new skills. I really worked on that. Because I gave good service, I started picking up a lot of customers, and so I had to put subcontractors on. Okay, and that was problematic because I wasn't very good at controlling them, not great customer service. And then I stumbled into the idea of building up and selling lawn mowing rounds. So I started to build up a customer base and sell them off and use my subcontractors to do that. So this is going on for a while. And I was doing all right, paid off my debt, even managed to buy a house. I was starting to do all right. And then this company comes in called VIP, which was a lawn mowing franchise company. And they were in Adelaide, a different city. I thought, no trouble to me. They're not a threat to me. And they came in and they came to Melbourne. And I panicked. I thought, these guys, 250 franchisees. I've got about 10 subbies, no uniform, no nothing.
Wow.
Okay, I
They
thought
all
these
look
guys
very organized,
they're going to crush me. They're going to absolutely demolish me. There's no way I compete with this. So I ring up the state manager. I say to him, David, I'm Jim from Jim's Mowing. I didn't call myself in those days. I'd like to work with you and build up your company because I can't compete with you. And he said, no, thanks. So I thought, all right.
Wow.
Let's try and compete. So there was a franchising expo that year. So I went into the expo. They gave you a name tag. I took it up, put it in my pocket, went up to the stand, VIP stand, and said, how does your business tell me about? Very interested in it. Now, I don't tell lies. I'm a lousy liar. So he didn't ask me, fortunately, why I wanted to know, because I would have told him. But so he told me all about how it worked and gave me this brochure and stuff. Then the state manager came in and said, that's Jim Penman. Don't tell him anything else. So they kicked me off the stand. I went away and I thought, all right, okay, I can see benefits to what they're doing. I can see why it would work. But you know what? I reckon I can make a system that would work better for franchisees. That was the idea I had.
Wow.
That was all of it. And I had no money, not much
thinking
money.
in the client. You
I was
were thinking in the client.
What
In
are my
franchisees, which is
franchisees
the
to be
first client.
successful? That was my goal. That was my idea. So I spent 9 months arguing with lawyers. Most of the time, lawyers trying to say to me, you need to do this, give yourself more power. And I said, no, I want a system that I want to be part of. What protection? So I looked at all the things that people didn't like about the VIP system, like the fact that it was too difficult to get out of the contract, it wasn't working, and all kinds of stuff. Okay, there was things I didn't like. It was good things, but there were things I didn't like. If I was interested, I wouldn't want that. So I designed a contract, the system that I thought would be the best possible thing from the point of view of franchisees. And when I had what was the best possible contract, I then got together a few of my people, my best people, some people who bought lawn mowing runs off me, which are really good, the best ones, my best subbies, and said, okay, here's a contract I want to put in place for franchise system. Here's the contract. What do you think? Read through it. They'd had a look at it and say, well, I don't like this, don't like that. So I changed all those things. So I got a contract that was the best possible contract. And I put all sorts of clauses in it. I said things like, if you're not happy with the system, you can walk away. These days we charge them a few thousand, but they walk away. If I'm not giving you great service, you don't have to stay. You can build your business to any size you want and you don't pay any extra fees. Here's your base fees, your lead fees, but it doesn't go up whether you're turning over $2 million a year or $100,000 a year. The fees are the same. As many employees as you like. You own the right to your clients. You own them. I cannot take them off you without your consent. You can sell the rights to them. I cannot take them off you without your consent. You have an absolute right to renew your contract at the Guild. I know that causes problems in franchising. And every future contract I give you must have this clause that guarantees. So I put all these protections and more into the contract. And somebody said to me at the time, and also the other thing I was determined to do too, because I knew from selling lawn mowing rounds, some people had failed, and they failed because they give poor customer service. So I said, I am not going to sell to anybody who I think there's any significant chance of failing. I do not want my franchisees to fail. Now, I thought this contract was so unreasonable and so self-limiting that I was going to knock back people. I would never grow that much. Somebody actually asked me at that time when I launched it, they said, if you're really successful, what do you think you might achieve someday? Now, bear in mind, my major rival had 250 franchisees. So I thought, look, I don't know if it's going to work really, but one day, if it does, I might have as many as 100 franchisees. I had no concept of going even beyond my state, Victoria, certainly not going international as we had to New Zealand and Canada. I had no thought of that. I just thought 100 franchisees would be fantastic. And the lawyer said to me, you're doing stupid things. Nobody ever heard about that. You're going to want to get more power. Actually, they say you're being too nice. That's why they put it. But so you're giving too many rights to your franchisees. So I started to grow. And I tell you what, it just astonished me. But I worked out pretty soon. I had this weapon, this fantastic weapon that nobody else had, that my rivals didn't have. And it was my list. Because when I used to sell lawn mowing rounds, I used to sell them as I do everything possible to look after the people who bought from me. And I'd put their name on a bit of white card, black text, their name and phone number, stick it on the board behind me. So if anybody interested in a lawn mowing round, I would say to them, why don't you contact the people who bought lawn rounds from me? Give them a ring, pick up someone from your area, ask them what it's like. And they ring them up and they say, what's Jim like? Oh, it's great. Does everything he says he will. He replaces lost jobs, no question. He's always ready to give you advice. He's just a great guy. Great, do business with this guy. That's what they used to say. So franchising, the same thing. Here's a list of all my franchisees, which in those days you weren't required to give, and their phone numbers. Somebody come to me and they say, okay, you're running a business for your basement. Here's VIP, bigger company, fancy office in South Melbourne. They're doing really well. Why should I buy from you? And I said, okay, well, there's some differences, which I can explain to you. I wouldn't bag them, but I'd say, here's a list of my franchisees with their phone numbers. I want you to go and I want you to ring as many as possible. And then I want you to go to them and get their list. Now, I was being a little bit ingenuous because I knew they wouldn't give the list because my people were overwhelmingly happy. And somebody would ring and they'd say, where's the catch? This system seems too good. And he comes back to me and says, there's no catch. I had one guy ring up every one of my first franchisees, became one of my best franchisees. So I looked after them. And you know what? With time, the lawyer said you're going to want to get power back. I actually gave more power to my franchisees. I gave them the power, for example, to vote out their franchisor, to change to a different franchise or a different division. The franchisor has no say. Also, to veto changes to their own manuals. As far as I know, we're the only company in the world that does that. So there was this relentless focus on franchisee success. We've got 5,500 close to franchisees now. Every single one of my franchisees, I really try hard to greet them personally at training because I give courses and I go and talk to them and chat to them and, you know, punt fist with them, get to know them. And I say, here's my name, here's my phone number, here's my email address. Don't give the phone number to anybody outside the company or I'll kill you. Sorry, don't do that. But if you have a problem, you ring me. You contact me anytime, daytime, evenings, weekends. I don't mind. You contact me anytime because you're important to me. I want to know what's going wrong. So I keep really close contact with my people. So it's that kind of attitude. And I didn't honestly think it would work out that well. Quite frankly, my thought was this is something I'll do until some real potential money spinner comes along. But I had this focus, this single-minded, fanatical focus. How can I look after people better? And part of that is giving better and better and better customer service. Not so much for its own sake, because emotionally speaking, my franchise is the most important, but because I know if my franchises give great service, they'll tend to do better, not only as individuals, but as a group. So I can be very tough on customer service. I personally get involved in the place. You know, you think we probably service millions of customers a year. If any customer has a complaint that doesn't get properly attended to the first time and they come back again, that gets sent to me and I will sit in that till something happens.
Wow.
And we will do whatever it takes to fix it. I personally get involved in individual problems with franchisees, individual customer complaints. That's basically the idea. And I have to tell you, I was very surprised that it turned out so well, because in most ways, really, Harry, I'm a total nong. There's so many things I'm bad at, but I do one or two things quite well.
So Jim, so how you solve the biggest challenges, or one of the biggest challenges for the franchises all over the world? You know, you have over 5,000 a lot. So franchisees. So it's about keeping consistency and consistency at the all levels, from customer service, from quality product, from, you see, one thing is to hey, it's amazing when you somebody buy a franchise and, well, there is a business already in the box. You only have to operate that business. The clients, there will be, the company will help you to find the clients. You just need to operate that. But in this path, because the person is an operator, is no an entrepreneur, and probably doesn't know the whole how important is treat the clients, or how important is the consistency on the product, and how important it is that when the client consume the product in the franchise number A, then when it goes to the next franchise, which is in another city, this client is actually expecting the same quality in terms of product, customer service, and everything. And it's the constant battle out there to make a franchise consistency across all the board. So what's your secret sauce? How you manage to...
All right. Now, the thing about a service franchise like ours is that it's a lot more scale. Now, if you've got something like a McDonald's franchise, the franchisor can go around and inspect the premises. They can see what's going on. They can pick up rubbish from the car park. They can do these kinds of things like that. And McDonald's is a good example. That it's incredibly bad food, and I won't eat it. I will let my kids have it. But as franchisors, they are brilliant. Okay, but that's because each of their stores is bringing in a heap of money. Each of my franchisees, the jobs they do make very, very little. You know, we would probably get net maybe 1% of what our franchisees turn over. That's all that comes through to us. So you're talking about a job that's worth, typical job could be worth $80 or something like that for a regular lawnmower. You know, we're talking about 80 cents. So it's a very small margin. So what we rely on is feedback. And this feedback from clients is two things. First of all, we monitor complaints that come through the call center and into the system. And secondly, we actually survey our clients. So 10 days after the lead goes out, we send a text message to the client. It's in a form. It's very easy to respond. B, bad, G, good, P, too expensive, stop sending me these. Very simple, bang, like that. But so easy to do. And about 1 in 3 respond. Now we take those responses and we bear down. And then we have a whole system of coaching, following up with the franchisee, warning letters, breach notices, benefits in terms of if they get great ratings and star ratings, and they get...
That's a great idea. Benefits in they get great ratings, a whole lot right? Of
positive things. And you know, whenever I talk to a franchisee, I always look at their ratings, and if they've got good ratings, but they normally got very good ratings, then I congratulate and say, fantastic, you're a credit to the system. And you know, if franchisees leave and they go independent or they do anything else, they want a reference to me, I'll give them a personal reference based on their ratings. So we really, really focus on feedback. We don't do much directly apart from that, except we actually, every year, we ask them to take a photograph of themselves in front of their trailer or their van. So we check on that. But that's basically the system. And what we've found is that as we've made that system more rigorous, the level of complaints have come down. And we can measure your complaints per lead. That's how you do it. So just an example, pre-franchise day, 100 leads, about 100 complaints. It really wasn't great service for most of us. Yeah. 100 leads, 100 complaints. All right. Now, because you see, you do a job and they become regular. So you might make another track of it. After the franchise started, we actually did selection system, always screen people very carefully. We supported, we trained, and we found out that it was dropped. It was about 100 leads, 5 complaints. All right. So we started putting in more measuring
Wow.
complaints in letters, and then we started doing these surveys. And as we did, the complaint rate dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. It's now some tiny fraction of a percent. And we've got changes with IT going on and going to happen in this year that are coming through that I believe is going to knock that down by at least half again.
Wow.
And as we've done that, and as our complaint rate has gone down and down and down, something quite miraculous happened. The leads coming into the system went up and up and up. In the early days of gyms, we had real trouble finding work. We had people knocking on doors to find lots, all kinds of things. These days, one of our biggest problems is unserviced leads. We had nearly 300,000 unserviced leads last year. We've got
Wow.
we actually have a problem because each franchisee pays $150 a month odd for advertising to contribute to it. And we can't use it ourselves because it's their money. Sometimes, quite often, we can't spend it. So just a few
Wow.
months ago, all my dog wash franchisees got it all paid for, conference, everything, hotels, flights, everything paid for by the surplus from the advertising fund because we can't spend it because they're all flat out. So you've gone
Wow.
from work being hard to find to work being overwhelmingly plentiful. And that's focusing on customer service. And we really push it hard, and I get personally involved in this, personally involved in the whole process at every level. And the other thing we really focus on is service to franchisees. So we have our systems of voting, changing regions, but we also survey them every year. We really try and get every franchisee to tell us the support they're getting. And the franchisors have to do certain things, respond promptly, be helpful, ring franchise at least once a month. That's the toughest one because they find it very difficult, some of them, ideally every week, but just constant contact. And then you get feedback. So you're constantly pushing. So as our level of support as measured clients has gone up, so our measured level of support to franchisees has gone up. And as that happens, it grows. But if you we watch costs. But I never say money isn't important. We're always very stingy. I've never even bought a new car in my whole life until 2 years ago when I won an electric car. That's how close I am with money. But focus really hard. We spend millions of dollars a year on software development, for example. We put huge investment into that area because that drives service. That's the best way to drive ongoing service.
Yeah, and then exactly, and then with the softwares, you have direct access to your clients. You also have direct access to the franchisor. So, because at the end of the day, the franchisor is also a customer, if you see it in that way. So everybody had to be treated as a client, as a customer, as an excellence. Everybody had to have an amazing experience. Not only the client that purchased the product, but also the franchisor, which is, if you see it as a client and you also focus, you see how can I make it more, how can I do his job more easy? And it comes a lot to training. Again, Jim, I think that when running a successful franchise business, you have to become a great delivering trainings and yeah, like you find a job in McDonald's and you don't touch a burger after day number 3. Then you need to do training and training and training, and again in some of the franchise. So when how you implemented high quality training across the board. So again, that is a key role to deliver consistency across the board in terms of customer service, quality of the product, and so on. When do you discover that training is gonna be a big part of this, and you have to create system and processes in place to deliver high quality training, something that everybody can understand, right? And again, somebody buys a franchise, that doesn't mean that it's an entrepreneur. It's someone that is buying a business to operate, but it's an operator, it's not an entrepreneur, so he cannot have the view that you have about customer service. They cannot have the view about a quality of the product that you have and consistency of the product because he's not an entrepreneur. It's just buying what we call it business in a box, right?
We don't have the luxury of a company like McDonald's to spend months and months on training somebody.
Absolutely. So how you do it then?
We have a training course, which is the generic training course, which takes 3 days. And that's a start. My first one is me. I talk about what I call the Jim's ethos, talking about service to clients, service to franchisees, and I end up the last training course too. So that's a 3-day course, business essentials, all taught by people who are experienced in the field, experienced franchisors, people who've done it. And every course, every member of the course actually judges every speaker. So we actually look at whether they're happy with the course and whether it's engaging, and then we look at, so we constantly, and we change people. If they don't score well, we change them. So we really have a high value course. And on top of that,
To
we
make sure
have
that everybody understands, right?
so, for example, cleaning is 2 days, mowing is 3 days, test and tag is 12 days. There's different divisions. Fencing is 8 weeks in the field. So depending on the division, you have extra divisional training. But the core is that 3-day course. An interesting thing about that is the way we measure the effectiveness of our training is through a thing called attrition rate. And it's what proportion of people who signed are still with us in 12 months' time. Now, if you go into a business like a mowing and cleaning business, it's typically got very high attrition. It's between 90 and 95%. If you go as independent, our traditional attrition rate was around about 17%. And that was consistent year to year. When we put the course in, our attrition rate dropped immediately to 10.5%. So more than a third of the people that were leaving in the first year were no longer leaving. It's since crept up to about 12, which is upsetting, but we're working on that. So you've got to measure very carefully what is working. And then you look at different franchisors, who's getting the best, who's getting the lowest attrition, what are they doing differently, how are they supporting. That's how we found, for example, proactive calls. Actually getting franchisors to ring franchisees was effective because we found that people who were doing that were having much better success than those who weren't. So you're constantly looking to so coaching, you have your upfront training, and then you have your ongoing, your meetings, you have your proactive calls. We ask franchisors to run meetings at least 8 times a year, so about every 6 weeks, which we found is the optimum level. And then they talk about how to improve, and they share information, get together. Ideally, we put on a meal for them too, because that brings in a more communal thing, encourage them to get together and talk together. That's your process. You don't have a lot of resources. You're talking about a lawn mowing contractor is not like a McDonald's franchisor or somebody who's running a major business. This is somebody, I mean, some of them are very big actually. I've got quite a few franchisees would be clearing, well over $1 million a year. But most of them are. The typical Jim's franchisee turns over probably a bit under $3,000 a week, from what our surveys show. So these are not major. They do better than independents by far, because we have more work and we charge more than the competition. We can afford to with the brand. But basically, they're small businesses.
Yeah. So then, Jim, so what advice do you have for someone starting a business right now and they thinking that they can franchise this business? So what are the parameters that they need to be looking after carefully? And are all businesses is the right choice to do a franchise in order to expand it? Or what type of business, in your opinion, are more easy to replicate or to build a brand and a franchise where everybody can benefit: customer, franchisor, and of course the franchise owner?
It depends. Whether you franchise depends to us on the nature of the business. Anything that's a service business is very franchisable because you need an independent person to be there to do the quotes. The businesses we don't tend to franchise so much are those that you can run from a head office. Example, Jim's Legal. And we have a legal business that's just started up, basically last year, where we do independent. It's not very big so far. We're probably turning over $250,000 a year, but it's just started. And we use our in-house legal counsel to do that. We do things like conveyancing and stuff. You can do that from a head office. So it's, even though we do have conveyancing franchisees, these are all eminently suitable. We're starting a business now called Jim's Healthy, which is providing very healthy meals, frozen meals for delivery for supermarkets. They're using the brand and my interest in health and fitness and so forth. So that's the typical head office thing. You don't need to franchise that. Franchising works where you've got somebody, you need the local owner, the entrepreneur, to be on the job. That's the kind of thing. And all the stuff we do, lawn mowing, clean, those kind of things, it works very, very well. As far as franchising services are concerned, we because we don't make a lot of money per franchisee, it's not a big margin business. We look for businesses that are potential scale. If we can't see the potential for at least 100 franchisees, it's not really worth doing it because there's just not enough income coming from. We don't our fees that average about 6% of turnover, and that covers advertising, support, everything,
Mm-hmm.
IT, the lot. So we're not very high fees.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to have business that can scale. So one of the things I want to do if somebody approaches about a business, and that's pretty typical, I would get at least top one person a week inquiring about possibly starting a new division. The first thing I would do is go into Google and type in the service. And what I want to see is a whole lot of sponsored ads because that tells me there's a lot of interest in that thing. And if I can see that, that's interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody just started driving school, for example. That's just one of our mowing franchisees actually has done that. And that's going really well. That started just last year. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a big business. It's big scale business. It suits us well.
Yeah. So
But it
then,
has
Jim,
to,
how you identify exactly how you identify there is enough need in the market to have at least 100 franchisee. This is the due diligence become more complex because, for example, if you are in a town, if you are in an area, okay, you know how many people can fix your shoes or how many people can sew your clothes. So you can make an assessment. Say, okay, we would be nice to open a shoe store here. Somebody that fix shoes and do key cut, right? Because there is missing in this particular area. Completely different is to build a
okay.
franchise where you need 100 all over Australia.
It's very easy to tell though, Harry, because
How
you
do
just
you
look at
know?
what you look at Google. You look at Google, you see how many businesses are there. You look at Google My Business listing. It's the same way. How many sponsored ads are there? How many local businesses are there? How far apart are they? That's a real simple process. And some businesses are just like somebody comes to me, they want to do something about snake removal, for example. A lot of snakes in Australia. So you look at it and say, no, it's not possible. You can't get enough. It's a great business for one person, but you're not going to get 100 people removing snakes. So forget about that one.
Yeah.
But if somebody comes up, driving school or laundry or anything, and these are all recent ones, then that's a good one. Somebody's come up with concrete polishing. You have to look at that. What's the demand for it? Another thing we look for, you want to know the business is sufficiently big. We want to see a decent hourly rate. Generally speaking, an average person doing our kind of business should be able to make $70 an hour. That's kind of our base. Now, I'm not talking about the best. I'm talking about the average operator, which means to say if you're going to mow a lawn, for example, it's going to take you, say, 35 minutes. It took me to mow an edge of a typical lawn. You're charging $80. You're making, including traveling, you're $70 an hour. That's the kind of calculation. So we look at that. But more important, well, both those have got to fit. But then the most important thing is who's the person coming to you? What do they know? So, for example, do they know the industry? If they've got background industry, like we have somebody whose recent business was what you call scratch and dent, where you go out and repair cars. Okay. Now, the guy who did that has previously run a very successful business. He was also way back, he was one of our franchisees and franchisors. So, Jason, know the guy good. So if you've got somebody with background in the industry or alternatively, somebody very successful within our business already. So quite often businesses started by franchisees or franchisors in Jim's group. So you've got to find the right person, and that's the thing. And then we have a process with the divisions where they've got to go to a training course. We have there's a 3-day, 6-day total training course for franchisors in 2 different sections. We teach them how to do it. Then they need to attend ongoing. They need to attend a monthly meeting and also a 6-monthly or 1-day seminar. So there's training requirements, and then they get certain performance criteria. So we don't charge very much to get in, but we charge ongoing fees. But they have to actually we have a target.
So, Jim, if somebody wants to know more about what you do, about your franchises, they want to learn from you, they want to have access to your information and to your company. How the process work? How can they find you? How can they learn more about you? Definitely, they're
www.
not gonna have your phone number. I already know that. You already shared it, but
No,
any
no.
way that they can learn from you.
But if they go to www.gyms.net, got that? That's easy. gyms.net, easy anywhere in the world. They go in there, they'll see all the information. There's a section called Meet Jim. They can go to me, but they can email me and I will respond.
Thank
And
you
if
so
someone
much.
wants to start a franchise, I said, here's an invitation. We've done it. We've had a couple of guys from the States come out to us, and we just say, come and do all of our training course. It'll cost you whatever it costs you, about $1,500 to do the whole thing. Franchise all course. We'll tell you.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing, Jim, that
There's
you
no
can help
obligation.
people.
There's no confidentiality. We've actually had 2 people who've gone away from our courses and tried to set up their own franchising network. None of them worked particularly well, but they were free to do it. We give it out. And
Wow.
people
So you do
see
have
what we do
courses,
there when they look at
Jim.
it.
So you do have courses in the website, right? For people to start their
Not on the
own
website.
franchise.
No, you got to come to us. You got to come to Melbourne.
Okay. You go to Melbourne to see you guys.
This is the franchising capital of the world, Melbourne, where you learn the top stuff about service franchising. We are the best. You can learn from us. You can meet with me. I'll have a chat with you over lunch, because I attend lunches at training and so forth. I get to know people. You come and learn. We've had a couple of people from the States come out and do our courses. They're great people too. They even helped us. They ran some seminars for us as well, sharing their ideas. We're very free on that. I don't hide information. In fact, I've got a book too, which you'll see on the site too. There's a new one coming out called No Other Success, which just says everything about it, you can even download it from the site. It's easy.
Thank you so much, Jim. And with this note, see you guys in our next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneurs like Jim break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.